We'd like to begin our concert this evening with a very, very, very beautiful verse written by the Pakistani poet Faiz Ahmad Faiz. हम देखेंगे. जिसका वादा है वो दिन के जिसका वादा है जो लौहे अज़ल में लिखा है जो लौहे अज़ल में लिखा है जब जुल्म सितम के कोहे
Dear participants of the 4th edition of the World Social Forum, artists, representatives of governments, intellectuals, and activists, citizens of India, dear friends. I see here in Mumbai people from nearly all countries in the planet. I feel the ballet and the boxing of nearly all ideas, feelings and illusions. So many people from so many places have gathered in their trajectories, which now they try to share in so many languages. Let's go together.
Art definitely is something very, very special thing, which would make people, more wise, I would say, more compassionate, I think there is total loss of faith in fellow human beings. Money oriented, the whole lifestyle. And somewhere the very basic poetic or poetry is missing from our life, I feel.
The idea of all these people kind of getting into the compartments, riding there 1 hour, half an hour, whatever, and waiting to get out of it every day, and that sense of release and getting out of it. And within that 1 hour, when they're inside the train, all the dreams and things that come to their mind of a better future. So I had the image of kind of figures flying out from the windows, which kind of point towards something better.
Was in Brazil, the last two WSFs, and found it very, inspiring, and wanted to come back and see how it goes on and what the differences are now in India to Brazil.
हम पहले ग्रुप में 39 पीपल आए, इसमें कुछ ख़वातीन हैं और कुछ मर्द हैं, और ये तवक्को है कि तकरीबन 700-800 के करीब जो है ना इस फोरम में इंशाल्लाह पाकिस्तान से शिरकत करेंगे।
Welcome everyone to the World Social Forum 2004.
Hello comrades. As far as I know, this is the first meeting from different parts of the world that the IS tendency has held in Asia. And it's a very exciting moment. Part of the purpose of this initial caucus is political orientation, and therefore we have to have some understanding of the nature of the left in India.
रामदयाल मुंडा झारखंड एटा दिसुम होबदाडियोआ
We want peace and justice. We want
Peace and justice.
So please come and join us, and to abolish nuclear weapons, please come from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock at Hall 4. Please come and join us, please. Thank you very much.
All join in solidarity. All right, hands in the air.
You know that the first World Social Forum was in Brazil in 2001, when it was a big success. And we said we cannot stop it, but also we cannot continue to do this meeting only in Brazil. We must repeat this experience all over the world.
It's a photo petition called the Million Faces, and we're asking people to add their face to our campaign. So you come and you either have your photograph taken or you draw a picture of yourself, and then we're going to put it online because the arms trade is sometimes very faceless. It's very anonymous. You don't know who's involved. And we're saying the arms trade might be faceless, but we're not. We're not afraid to put our face to our call for governments to act to end this crisis.
We are not only saying that alternative world is possible, but we are defining that alternative paradigm, that alternative politics, that alternative economy, which is going to be based on the people's right to resources, people's right to development planning, and people's right to evolve new politics.
150 years ago, the business corporation was a relatively insignificant institution. Today, it is all pervasive. Like the church, the monarchy, and the Communist Party in other times and places, the corporation is today's dominant institution.
A whole galaxy of things to make a better life on Earth.
I suppose somebody could go out into the streets of India and could say that the deprivation that we see is a function, of just globalization. I think they'd be wrong. An easy way to see it is to go out into the streets of the United States. The United States is the beneficiary of globalization. The United States is the country where the benefits of corporate globalization overwhelmingly accrue. Nonetheless, the gap between the rich and poor in the United States is actually the largest in the world. The level of poverty that exists in the United States is not like the level of poverty that exists in the countries that we rip off, but it is still profound. If we're against corporate globalization because it ravages people, because it diminishes people's lives, because it induces divisions and hostilities, then we have to be against domestic institutions which do that as well. Capitalism.
They are unwilling.
Or
if they have alternate skills.
तो सांसडी एक ऐसा गेम है जो छोटे से छोटे लोकेलिटी में से लेके बड़े से बड़े, इसमें कोई क्लास नहीं है। ये गेम खेलने वालों में कभी कोई क्लास डिस्क्रिमिनेशन नहीं है। हम लोग HIV और STIs के बारे में इंफॉर्मेशन दिया है, और STIs ट्रीट किए तो क्या होएगा। सो अगर प्रोटेक्टेड सेक्स हम लोग फॉलो करते हैं तो उनको CD मिलेगा। ये है गेम में। ये
एक जगजीत सिंह चित्रा सिंह का गजल है ना, लोग हर मोड़ पे रुक रुक के निकलते क्यों हैं, जब इतना डरते तो वे घर से निकलते क्यों हैं।
अरे म्हणतो
माझी मैना 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 गावावर राहिली।
Economy of Bombay actually was based on the textile mill industry. People of Girangaon were mainly workers who migrated from the other parts of Maharashtra. And when they came here, they brought their own cultural forms. The mills are closing down, the workers are losing their jobs. And because they are losing their jobs, they are getting displaced.
तुमचं भांडवल हे सुरक्षित पाहिजे याच्यासाठी कायदे करता, मात्र तुम्ही कामगारांची सुरक्षा नाकारता, हे आम्हाला मान्य नाही आहे। आमचं असं म्हणणं आहे की हेच तर कायदे आम्ही मिळवले होते गेल्या 50 वर्षाच्या लढाईमध्ये, की कामगारांना नोकरीचा अधिकार असला पाहिजे, त्याची नोकरी सुरक्षित असली पाहिजे। आणि मला असं वाटतं की आता हे जे असंघटित कामगारांचं स्वरूप जे आलं आहे, कॉन्ट्रॅक्ट लेबर आलेले, ते अत्यंत वाईट आहे। त्याच्यामुळे कामगाराला काही सुरक्षा नाही। म्हणजे म्हणजे मालक केव्हाही कारखाना बंद करू शकतो, केव्हाही सुरू करू शकतो. त्यामध्ये कामगारांचं भवितव्य काहीच नाही आहे.
माझ्या जीवाची होती या कायली, माझी मैना गावावर राहिली, माझ्या जीवाची होती या कायली. ओचू बांधा रंग व्हाळा कोर चंद्राची, ओचू बांधा रंग व्हाळा कोर चंद्राची.
Flexible labor markets is a euphemism for intensifying exploitation of the workers. A view which is often put forward that we are in an era of jobless growth, that somehow this is something that we can do nothing about. Technological progress is occurring rapidly, and as a result it is really impossible to conceive of a world of full employment today, and unemployment therefore is a price that we have to pay for having the benefits of a rapid rate of technological progress. And to think of this unemployment as something which is inevitable and has to be accepted is again both tendentious and mischievous, since it detracts attention from the fundamental flaws of the system under which workers live today.
We talk about economic growth, we talk about notions of poverty, but we don't emphasize the fact that, as I said in the beginning, one of the most important aspects of poverty is the sense of insecurity. And there are many dimensions to this sense of insecurity. There's economic security, on which my discussion is focused, but there's also other aspects of insecurity. Health insecurity, there's insecurity in terms of violence, and many of these social dimensions, these other dimensions of insecurity, are intimately linked with the kinds of economic insecurity that I discussed. Means that economic policy cannot be relegated or delegated to technocrats.
It's me and Pedro. Oh, this is a project called 15,000 kilometers for peace. And we want to take part in the World Social Forum, and we went first to Greece, then Turkey, Iran, Pakistan, and finally India.
Choosing this avenue is just an accident because we got this, and that helped the process also. You could also cross the road, and metaphorically also we invite the people to cross the road and come to MR. We are discussing out what are the strategies to fight imperialism. So in that context, WSF is offering a strategy and MR 2004 is offering another strategy. We think these two strategies are fundamentally different. So they want to negotiate, they want to reform, humanize globalization, whereas the stage is to smash imperialism.
And we will kick your WTO, we will kick your bloody
kahit na may bagyo, kahit na may ulas, kahit may libo-libo kaaway, kahit na magati at isang matira sa ating dakiyang hanay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
सारी दुनिया नहीं बोलेंगे, क्योंकि आदिवासी ये जो दूसरी दुनिया की तलाश में जो हम इधर बैठे हुए हैं, उसकी जड़ में बात है कि जो जिस दुनिया में हम लोग हैं वो सफिशिएंट नहीं है, उससे हम लोग नाखुश हैं। इस नाखुशी के पीछे क्या बात है? सामाजिक तौर पर, राजनीतिक तौर पर, आर्थिक तौर पर, सांस्कृतिक तौर पर।
आदिवासी, the resources of the Adivasi in Southeast Asia are seen and also unseen. Seen because they are the forests, they are the rivers, they are the hill. Unseen because it has to do with legends, stories, wisdom. It has to do with the spirits. And therefore, the resources of Adivasi.
से ही भारतीय सैनिक आकर के इस पठारी क्षेत्र में अपना युद्ध अभ्यास करते थे। जब सैनिक फायरिंग के लिए आते थे तब हमें फायरिंग अभ्यास क्षेत्र से 3 से 4 किलोमीटर दूर हम लोग को जाना पड़ता था। जब हम लोग आधी रात को फायरिंग अभ्यास समाप्त होने के बाद में घर में आते थे तो सेना हमारे घरों के बर्तन, मुर्गे, बकरी, सुअर तक उठा ले गए। सामूहिक बलात्कार के दौरान 35 महिलाएं अपना जान खो गई और हम जाति, धर्म और दलगत राजनीति से ऊपर उठ करके जनसंघर्ष समिति का गठन किया। 6 मार्च 1994 को सेना ने संबंधित प्रभावित क्षेत्र में लोगों को फिर से फायरिंग अभ्यास का नोटिस दिया और सबने जान देंगे जमीन नहीं देंगे के नारे लगाए और खास ताल पर नगाड़े की आवाज से पूरा जंगल गुंजायमान हो उठा। सेना तुम हम पर गाड़ी चला दो, हम पर तोप दाग दो, लेकिन हम अपनी जमीन से नहीं हटेंगे। और 10-15 मिनट की नोकझोंक के बाद में सेना वहां से वापस चली गई। 30 वर्षों के बाद यह पहला ऐतिहासिक अवसर था जब हमने प्रबल जन विरोध के कारण सेना को अपना रूटीन फायरिंग कार्यक्रम स्थगित करना पड़ा।
But I will talk a little bit about the situation with Indigenous Australians, and I'll begin with a song also. White man come to the territory, building town, building big city. He never worried longer whose country, what's gonna happen to the Walpurgis. Kaidich Waramanga Guranji, Pitcha Chinjara Lura Chap into Bilyara Wara Anga Nana Majari.
Here globalization means privatization, private economy. It means no land reforms. It means no labor laws. It means no reservations. It means lesser state expenditure on education, health. Now this is the globalization we speak about, because ultimately your life depends on the economy, and that is going to devastate the whole Dalit community. Let us look back at the history, and nowhere, even in those countries which are developed, it has happened that the benefit which has come to the country, the economy that has improved, that actually it has helped the discriminated group in those countries. Look at what happened in USA. Look at the condition of the blacks in USA even today. Growth and development of the economy has not been able to take off the racial discrimination.
Farmers from Asia, from Africa, America, Europe. We have similar issues. Well, during years now, we have been fighting to say that the European policy is a policy against the farmers, against the consumers, against our environment. Since the beginning of the 80s, we decided to build a strong farmers' movement to say we have to change our policy. We have to say that our agriculture has to feed our own population. We have to stop to make more agriculture than we have, that we need. That's why we say we can change the way we make agriculture. But we work very strongly also with all the consumers, because for us it's important to make a big movement from people from the field and people from the towns.
We have a world water crisis. The world is running out of water. We don't have enough, and we're abusing what we have. We're polluting the surface water so much and so fast that we're now mining the groundwater way faster than nature can replenish it. But that's not enough for the big corporations and the World Bank and the World Trade Organization that are now moving in to take corporate control of what's left of the world's water. They see it as blue gold, the most precious resource, the most precious commodity in the world, because they know that people will do anything for water and that we can't live without water. And so what they're doing is that they want to put it on the open market for sale, commodify it, privatize it, sell it to the highest bidder, and for people who can't afford it, they don't care, they'll let them die.
The job of a citizen is to keep his mouth open. Gunter Grass. Ah!
My name is Ababu. I'm from Kenya, where the sun shines for 14 months. Another world is possible. Together.
En junio como en enero, cultivo una rosa blanca. En junio como en enero, para el amigo sincero que me da su mano franca. Bandanera, Bahira bandanera, bandanera.
No to FTAA.
Sí a la vida.
Yes to life.
Primero, yo les quiero decir que yo estoy acá porque además yo tengo un hijo desaparecido desde el 15 de abril de 1977. De ahí nos unimos las madres que tenemos los hijos desaparecidos, nos dimos cuenta de que nuestros hijos luchaban contra la injusticia y por eso fueron reprimidos. Decidimos recoger las banderas de lucha de ellos.
We decided to pick up the flags of struggle,
y
of their
salir al
struggle,
mundo a luchar.
and go out in the world and fight.
Primero en Argentina hubo una dictadura militar que se hizo desaparecer 30.000 personas, varones y mujeres. Fue la primera parte de un avasallamiento de los derechos del pueblo. Y es cuando el Fondo Monetario Internacional da plata, presta plata a gobierno asesino, a un gobierno de dictadura. Y eso sigue con el hambre del pueblo.
And that follows with the hunger of the people, that continues the hunger of the
y con el genocidio económico.
And with economical
సంగమెట్టుకో పొదుపు చేసుకో సంగమెట్టుకో ప్రభుత్వ పథకాలన్నీ
I'm a Kashmiri Muslim. It's my land. I belong to this place. It's everything for me. In Kashmir today, what we are seeing today is that two countries, that's India and Pakistan, have tailored a set of definitions wherein they define what this political concept means. And we Kashmiris are battling Indian and Pakistani definitions on the ground. The source of definitions is not Kashmir. The source is India and Pakistan, but Kashmir is the battleground where two opposing points of view battle each other in a savage and a primitive manner. The point today, which is most important, is what is the way forward? Are we in a position to end violence? We have to go beyond traditional ways to try and see if we can psychologically unite each other, philosophically communicate with each other, and go beyond border disputes, go beyond geography. For that, magnanimity will have to be in abundance.
First of all, what we see in Palestine now is a situation where in a very small area, which is occupied, you have 757 checkpoints, cutting the country into pieces. People cannot move from one place to the other for 3 years now. A trip that would usually take 45 minutes, for instance, from Ramallah to Hebron, would take now 13 hours, and the person would have to change the car 11 times. 25 of our doctors and nurses have been shot and killed while they were trying to provide medical care. 55 women had to give birth at checkpoints. 33 of them lost their babies. And in our experience as Palestinians, we know that we cannot be free as people if women in Palestine are not also free. We also had an experience in the first Intifada where many political forces said, wait, let's have independence first, and then the issue of women and democracy can come later. It's not true. Because we did not solve the problem of women, because we internally did not solve the problem of democracy, we did not achieve independence.
We cannot have equality between just women and men, or democracy in Egypt, and there is no democracy in the world. They propagate in the media that Islam is terrorist, terrorism in Islam, dictatorship in Islam, as if there is no dictatorship in Christianity or Judaism or any other. When George Bush is a dictator, and go to Iraq and kill people for the oil, then how can we have equality between men and women in Egypt or in Afghanistan? So we have to connect global dictatorship with local dictatorship, and to eradicate this global and local dictatorship in this, hopefully, another world.
I've been doing this for most of my adult life. I went to Vietnam, to North Vietnam during the bombing, protested for weeks there. George Bush is only a new extreme. It's only the newcomers that think there's something radically different. As I said earlier, we've had 125 major military interventions in our history, and not a single one have benefited the people in the country that we intervened in.
It's empty! It's absolutely empty! 1, 2, 3!
America Zindabad! America Zindabad!
Yeah! America Zindabad!
As I served in Iraq as head of the United Nations Oil for Food program. I was taking instructions from the Security Council, dominated by the United States and Britain. My instructions were to facilitate to diminish the damage, you might say, of the sanctions regime against the people of Iraq, and I refused to do that. Now, many of us probably thought sanctions were less dangerous than warfare, but in fact sanctions turned out to be a weapon of mass destruction. They are genocidal, and after 12 years, we killed in Iraq well over 1 million people, the majority of whom would have been children, totally innocent children, who weren't born, many of them, when Iraq invaded Kuwait. Now, my message to George Bush is to resign, save mankind from the Judeo-Christian, conservative, born-again, crazy Christian right side, and to give the world back to the people who understand the value of culture and difference, of different peoples, races, cultures, religious beliefs. Let's get the world together again, and let's work on well-being. Let's invest, not in military, let's invest in the people.
George Bush shouldn't just stop drinking Coca-Cola, but he should stop his economic terrorism.
I got lots of messages for George Bush, but I shouldn't really put them all on camera.
इन्होंने तेल के लिए इतने इंसानों को कत्ल किया है, तो वो कौमी मुजरिम है.
What do we want? No war! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? No war! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? No war! When do we want it? Now! What do we want?
Señor Bush, la próxima presidenta de Estados Unidos tiene que ser una mujer. El mundo será distinto.
Señor Bush, usted es el primer terrorista del mundo. Su país tiene que entender que quieren como presidente el peor asesino que en estos momentos es presidente de un país.
No war, with peace. That's all. We have to go with peace. So there is a no war. It's better for all. And everyone. Yeah.
Zamani maru je dina shid chago mare. Shid ngolo. Chi kecha ya boshie. Maru je dina shid chago mare zamani.
That was very good.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they want peace and non-violence in this earth. He says.
Many expect that a lot of things have changed in Afghanistan because the United States, the Western governments, the governments in the region were kind enough to go to Afghanistan and to liberate Afghan women. But our women, uneducated women, oppressed women who didn't have any voice, they have one question, very simple question. And that is, if these governments were so kind enough, why they did support such fundamentalists? Many people believe that the United States must be tried for its war crimes in Afghanistan. We strongly support this, but it shouldn't be only the crimes that happened after September 11th. The biggest crime that the United States has committed in Afghanistan, and many of its other Western allies in the region, was to support the brutal, the misogynist fundamentalists like the Taliban, like the jihadis, the Northern Alliance, who today, with the support of the United States again, are ruling Afghanistan.
We, the Palestinian women, citizens of Israel, in 1987, we and our friends, the Israeli women, went out to the streets and we screamed in one voice that we refuse to be only the good mothers and the good daughters. We want to lead this land to peace.
I feel it's going to be increasingly difficult for us to speak about Muslim fundamentalism in certain contexts. How can one speak about Muslim fundamentalism in India after the genocide in Gujarat? How can one speak about Muslim fundamentalism in Palestine when it is occupied by Israel? And how can one speak about Muslim fundamentalism in Iraq when it is bombed and occupied by the US? But still, we have to do it, and we have to do it here amongst ourselves, and making a big difference between Muslims and fundamentalists.
What's wrong with what happened to the women in Gujarat? It always happens. George Fernandez said something like that in Parliament. We all saw him saying it on television. But I want to say something which is disturbing to us as feminists, as women. And that is that women participated in that violence against women. Women participated in that Hindutva agenda. Women voted for Narendra Modi. And this is something which we must work on. You know, it isn't enough for us to always blame somebody else. We do these things to ourselves too. And we have to really get to those women and say, what were you doing? What were you thinking when you watched someone who lives next door to you being gang raped and burnt alive? What were you thinking when you cast your vote for people that can do that? Because if they can do that to somebody else, soon they will do it to you.
तो जम जाएगा बढ़ता है तो मिट जाता है खून फिर खून खाके सहरा पे जमे या कफे खातिल पे जमे तने इंसा चुपिया पाए सलासिल पे जमे इन बेगा चुपिया आकर बिस्मिल पे जमे खून फिर खून टपकेगा तो जम जाएगा जुल्म फिर जुल्म दीवाना है दामन पे लपक सकता है शोले तुंद फिर मन पे लपक सकता है खून फिर खून सौ शक्ल बदल सकता है ऐसी शक्ल के मिटाओ तो मिटाए न बने ऐसे शोले के बुझाओ तो बुझाए न बने ऐसे नारे के दबाओ तो दबाए न बने खून फिर खून टपकेगा तो जम जाएगा गुल फिर गुल बढ़ता है तो मिट जाता है खून फिर खून
nobody else then has at the global level. And this thing is the fundamental building block of democracy, and it is called moral authority. And if you don't think moral authority can work, look at what happened last year at the World Social Forum. James Wolfenson, president of the World Bank, one of the most powerful men on earth, applied on bended knee to come and speak at the World Social Forum. Why? Because he recognized that we have more legitimacy than he does, and he wanted to wrap himself in that legitimacy. And what did the World Social Forum say to him? They told him to bugger off. That is where power lies. Power lies where moral authority is. And already, we have that power.
हमें लग रहा था कि हम जाके बहुत बोर होंगे, हम तो आपस के हैं तो, लेकिन और भी कहीं से आए हैं देश से, तो उनसे हमारी दोस्ती भी, तो बहुत एंजॉय भी करते हैं उनके साथ मिलके.
Yeah, like the people speaking and friendly and giving everybody equal opportunities.
People can speak their mind, they can say whatever they want to, they can protest on the streets, it's really nice.
vão aprender, tem que exercer a união dos irmãos pra fortalecer. Na correria, prende freque, quem não tromba. Falsidade não faz parte, só confronta. Sentir pra quê? Pela verdade correr, sobreviver, vencer, passa a viver pra ter poder de ser você, agir, fazer, a raiz, bater, fogo, buiar, África. Entre outras coisas, mais Brasil, febril, sentiu, ponto final, taca fogo, piloto universal, taca fogo, ulê, ulê, lê, 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 lê. Ganja, 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 ulê, lê, 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 lê. Outra vez pra marcar, ulê, lê, 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 lê. Ganja, 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 ulê, lê, 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 lê. Vou dizer com atrás, não dá paz, a paz vem mais crer. Que nós somos todos capazes, ninguém tá aqui de
Should the social movement remain an independent force of pressure on political parties which are or will be governing? Or should the social movement itself express its objectives as part of political power? And you see, this alternate position would imply, de facto, transformation into a new political body similar to the existing ones. So we must avoid to give an ideal picture of a social movement versus the nasty political parties. Because at least in political parties, like in trade unions, votes do take place. On the one side, political parties want to be the voice of social movements. On the other, the social movements ask political parties to carry their claims in the institutions. It sounds ideal. But political parties have to make compromise on the actual weight they weight in society. And the social movements cannot accept this compromise, and they feel betrayed by the political parties. But if at the end of the day we feel that this partnership cannot be possible, then the social movement will have no other way than create its own political force with the establishment of a democratic and international organization, and this is indeed a never debate.
You can't belong to the left and not be split, because we really believe in it. We're not obsessed by power in the way that the right is obsessed by power, and the right's obsession with power overrides all other considerations, and they focus in on that, and they're not divided in the way that we are. But we really believe in the things that we stand for. We really have principles and ideals, and those principles and ideals are going to differ from person to person. So you'll never have a completely united left or progressive force anywhere on earth. That's an impossibility. That being said, we are seeing a degree of international solidarity which has perhaps never been present before.
Deixa ensaiar. Tá bom. Somos do Brasil, outro mundo é possível.
Assim? احنا مغاربة وجايين من المغرب وعالم آخر ممكن.
We want to say another world is possible.
Camilo Romero, Michael Montoya, de Colombia, otro mundo es posible. Otro mundo es posible. Another world is possible.
The changes do not happen just because a few intellectuals here and there imagine something different. Changes needs actors, and actors are social forces, people organized or more or less organized in one way or another. And this is what is happening presently. I mean, the movement. I do not think that changes can be produced exclusively from below. From below, it starts from below, but at a certain point, it has to crystallize into a political project, and then change the things, change the balance of forces, at least at the level of power decision. Nobody would have imagined, say, in the early 90s, that within in 10 years or so, there would be such a huge movement, such huge movements of protest everywhere in the world, including in the centers, including in the United States, including in Europe, including in Japan, and also, of course, everywhere in the South. Nobody would have imagined that.
चारा का रुपया, अरे खाद का रुपया, अरे फसल पे बलिया रे, कोई तो मुझे बोलो, छोटा बचाओ, कोई तो मुझे बोलो। Timor Leste.